Hi everyone, this is Crystal, and today I am creating a page in my Life Crafted album using one of the screens that was released this month. This is a cut file, so I've cut it twice from some white cardstock, and I'm planning to put some vellum in between, which seems to be my go-to with these. I really like the look of that. I have also cut down one of the papers from the scrapbooking add-on kit to 5 by 8 1/4. These are going to be the pages on either side of this screen, and I have another sheet of paper here that I think I want to use. This is the photo I'll be scrapbooking. It's of my dog Abby at the beach. She stole my chair and fell asleep in it, so I want to document that story. I do have some other supplies from both the Life Crafted and the scrapbooking add-on off to the side here that I think I'll probably use. And I do have another cut file here that I want to use as part of my title. I've cut this 3 times out of some white cardstock, and I think I might try to ink it to give it some color and then maybe put it here for my title. Okay, so I am just going to start playing and put you on fast forward.
So I don't think I mentioned that these are actually the August kits from Citrus Twist Kits, and I actually created this page back in July when I first got the kits as a design team member. I was staying at my mom's at the time. I created a bunch of pages over the week that I was there and then totally forgot about them until recently and decided to share them all this week. So this is the second one that I'm sharing this week. I have one more to share with you before the week is over. But I really got the most out of this kit. So you can create so much if you get these kits. Like I was seriously amazed at how much I was able to create and then also how much I had left over. So highly recommend them. They've been my favorite kit club for a long time now. So while I've been talking, I just added some liquid glue to the back of my cut file. This is one of the cut files available this month. This is August, so they're available in August in the shop. They remain available beyond August, but I just added some liquid glue around the edges and then added that to a sheet of vellum that was from my stash and then did the same thing with the other side. So when I cut it, I cut a mirror image of it so that it would be two-sided so that both sides would look finished in my album. Super easy to do. You just make a copy and flip it so that you get a mirror image and then add the vellum in between. So I added the second one, just lined it up with the first one and then cut around the outside so that you can't see the edge of the vellum. And now I'm going to go ahead and punch holes just so I know where those are going to go and I don't add anything on top that might interfere with the holes later on. So I just used a page protector from a Life Crafted album and used my pen to make a tiny dot in the center of each of those holes, and that tells me where to line up my hole punch. Because I'm not at home, I don't have my 6-hole punch with me, otherwise I would use that. But it works just as easily to use a regular hole punch. This happens to be a crocodile, but really any hole punch will work for just this cardstock. So then I just lined it up with the other 2 pages and made sure to sandwich them together the right way so that the holes would line up exactly with each other. So now that I have my holes in place, I can go ahead and start working on my page. So as I said at the beginning of this video, I have a photo of my dog Abby while we were on vacation in Michigan earlier this summer. She had fallen asleep in my chair and was absolutely adorable. It was something I definitely wanted to document, even though the photo itself isn't great. We were under an umbrella and it was shaded and partially sunny. And yeah, it's not a great photo. It's very busy, very colorful, which is kind of what drew me to the supplies I chose. So it's a very colorful photo, and then I just kind of go all in on making a super colorful page. There are lots of bright colors in this kit. There are also lots of muted colors, but I stuck with just the brighter toned ones. And I'm basically going to add all the colors on this page. Started with that heart paper on the background, and I'm basically going to add all the colors that are in that heart paper to my page. So I'm starting with this darker blue paper just to give my photo a little bit of a border. It contrasts with the photo and helps my photo stand out on all of these busy pieces that I'm about to add to the background. And then I'm going to just layer up a bunch of other papers beneath it. Basically, like I said, adding all the colors. So I start with the other side of that blue paper, which is this rainbow print. I used a piece of the lighter pink from the top, and then I'm going to also use a little bit of this kind of violet color from the bottom of this sheet. I'm going to just cut a chunk of it. And you can tell I'm not doing concentric layers behind my photo. I very rarely do that. I prefer to create kind of wonky layers and give it some texture and interest. So I'm going to make a bigger piece of that kind of violet paper, make a smaller piece of the lighter pink, make another smaller piece of this kind of brighter pink floral paper from the Life Crafted kit, and then I'm also going to add in a bit of the yellow paper, which is actually the opposite side of that heart pattern paper. But I'm not quite sure how I want to work that in yet, so I'm just kind of laying things down and getting a feel for how they might work on this page. I know that I want to back my photo with some foam adhesive, so I'm going to grab just some fun foam here in a second and add that to the back of my photo to get a better feel of how this is going to look on the page. I chose a journaling card from the Life Crafted kit to do my journaling on. That's going to be on the opposite side of the page, so behind the vellum screen. And I'm just going to handwrite my journaling. Since I am away from home, I'm also away from my typewriter, and the easiest way to add the journaling is just to handwrite it. So there is the foam. I'm just adding a large chunk to the back of my photo just to help it lay flat on the page. And then I'm just going to lay it down. I'm not going to adhere it yet because I'm not 100% convinced that I like the layers the way they are at this point. So just letting it sit there while I work on the rest of the page. So like I said, there are a ton of bright embellishments on in this kit or in these kits, and I'm just going to go through pretty much all of them and look for ones that will work. So there were a couple pieces of chipboard from the Life Crafted kit that I thought would work nicely. I'm looking at the chipboard from the scrapbooking add-on as well, but I didn't really see any. Those were a little bit more muted. There were a few things on the cut-apart sheet. So this is the printable cut-apart sheet that you get free as a subscriber. So if you subscribe to the kits, you'll get access to this for free, and you can download it and print it out. If you are not a subscriber, you can also just purchase this in the shop for a few dollars. There are quite a few things on here that I think will work well for this page, so I'm going to start trimming some of those out. I started with that kind of rainbow, almost tie-dyed looking border label, but I don't end up going with that one. I end up choosing a different one instead. I do use this little banner with the heart on it. I thought it was just too perfect, and it has the perfect pink on it, so I'm going to go ahead and use that pretty much right where I have it. I do audition it in a couple other spots, but I'm going to kind of go with a standard form of embellishment for me. So I tend to embellish in the upper left corner and the bottom right corner on projects like this, and I say if it works for you, then go for it. Just do what works. Don't overthink it. Do what looks good to your eye. They're all going to look different because you're using different supplies. So even if you've done the exact same thing on a million other pages, as long as it continues to work for you and you like the way it looks, go for it. So that's what I'm doing. I punched another circle from that cut apart sheet, and I'm going to layer it there behind the banner. Here is where I'm auditioning other options, but ultimately I put everything back where it was in the upper left hand corner. I am also going to go through the ephemera pack from the Life Crafted kit, and I've also tucked in here some of the other printables from this month's release and a few things from the other kits just to keep them all together and make it easier for me to store them. So I pulled out a label. I think I find a few smaller embellishments. There are lots of like starfish and coral in bright colors, and we were at Lake Michigan. We were not at the ocean, but I don't care. It doesn't bother me to use them. They were the right colors, and it kind of evokes that same sort of beachy theme. So yeah, it doesn't bother me that there aren't literally starfish where we were or anything like that. So I'm going to grab a bunch of those in some bright colors, and I'll end up using those in my clusters as well. I also grabbed a little phrase die cut that says Don't Wake Me Up, which is perfect for this since she is literally sleeping in my chair. And I didn't wake her up. I sat in the sand so that I didn't have to wake that sweet little baby up. Okay, so I'm finally happy with how this is looking. I'm going to go ahead and start adhering things down. So there was, of course, adhesive on that foam, so I used that to add the first layer of borders around my photo, and then I just added some double-sided tape. That is 3/4 inch double-sided tape from scrapbook.com. It has been my absolute favorite since I received it. It's super easy to pull the backing paper off and it adheres really well. I'm super happy with it. Highly recommend it. So that's what I'm going to use to add all of these layers together, just because these are going to be outside of a pocket, so I want to make sure that nothing is going to fall off this page as time goes on. So once I have those together, I can kind of start replacing things back on this page and figure out where everything is going to go. I want to use this little chipboard piece, but it was pretty thick, so I went ahead and pulled off a little bit of that backing and added it to the bottom corner of my photo, and then I'm just going to go ahead and glue down everything where I had it originally. I tuck some of these little pieces in the side just so they're kind of peeking out, and add those starfish in both places. I'm really just going for a more is more philosophy on this page. To be honest, it's not my normal style, and looking at the finished product, it's not my favorite page by any means, but I am still happy with how it looks, and it was definitely fun to create. So sometimes it's more about the process than the finished product, and that's totally fine with me. If I decide later on I want to re-scrap this photo on a different page, I have no problem doing that either. So it was fun to create, and that's really all that matters. So I'm just playing around with the bits and pieces, trying to get a good balance of color and of shape, and making those clusters feel balanced to my eye, and going to just keep playing with them, playing with all the different supplies that I've pulled out and trying different things. I think I go back to, yeah, here I do. I go back to the ephemera pack to pull out a couple more of those starfish. I had only pulled out one, I think, to start with because, like I said, they didn't really work with my page, but I decided just to go ahead and add them all because, like I said, they're the right colors and they're a good shape for adding to these embellishment clusters. One was hiding from me, so I looked at the back and saw that there was definitely one more little piece that I was looking for, but I couldn't find it, so it took me just a second to dig through all of these little pieces and find that piece that I was looking for. But it is there. It's there somewhere, and I'm determined to find it, so I'm going to go through every single piece individually until I do find that one I was looking for, which is why it's nice to have that kind of key on the back side of these ephemera packs so that you can see everything that's included and know exactly what to look for without having to sort through everything. So um, I think I did find it. I'm not sure. I didn't see me pull anything else out. I know that I found whatever I was looking for at some point, so maybe it's coming up still. But so just again playing with the layers, I know I want to create another cluster on the other side to kind of echo the clusters on the left-hand side. So I'm just kind of adding some things over there as well and figuring out what will work. I did decide finally to add some of that yellow paper, so I'm just going to slip it down the right hand side of my photo. I did tear it so that it just added a bit more texture instead of cutting it straight. Having that torn edge gives a little bit of texture without a lot of dimension. There's already a lot of dimension on this page, which is fine since it's out of the pocket and in a Life Crafted album. I have room to add lots of dimension, but I still didn't want to make this too terribly bulky, so adding some texture that way with just a torn edge is a great way to get a bit more interest on your page. I did rough up the other side with my fingernail. Since I had used that torn edge, I thought it would make a bit more sense to have some rough edges on some of the other papers as well. And then I can adhere this whole thing down to the page finally. and go ahead and start adding all the embellishments back in where I had them. So there's a lot of moving things around on this page, a lot of shuffling and moving things off and adding things back in. And I think that's just part of my process. So sometimes I'm able to just commit and stick things down right away. And sometimes I feel like I need to play around a bit more and get things just right before I feel comfortable sticking them down. And I think it's totally fine to do it either way. I think whatever works for you in the moment is really just what you have to go to. I mean, this whole thing that we do, this practice is really just kind of for fun. And yes, we're documenting memories and sharing stories, but it's mostly just for our own enjoyment. So do whatever feels right to you in the moment, and don't let yourself second guess yourself or feel like you have to create something that looks just like somebody else's work, or judge yourself. I think we can all be our own worst critics as well. But and I know I am. Um, like I said just a few minutes ago, this isn't my favorite page, and I'm not sure that it's my best work. But I did have fun creating it, and that's really what matters to me. So building up those layers now, just getting them in the exact right spot. Since I did tear off a few layers of that chipboard, I had to use my liquid glue to stick it down. I found that that's the best way to adhere the chipboard once you've taken off the adhesive that comes on it, just because my tape runner and most tape runners I've tried to use just kind of tear off that rough cardboard on the back. For that ampersand circle, I did add just a tiny bit of foam to the corner because it's overhanging the photo, which is up on foam, and partially on the regular or the rest of the page. So adding that bit of foam just helps it sit straight and not be kind of wonky on the page. And then I'm just adding the rest of my little embellishments, being picky about exactly where they go on the page. And I think that's just about it for this side. I do add a stamp to that label. So I have that pink label there that's kind of tucked in at the bottom of my photo. I'm going to add a stamp that says funny story, which I think also applies here. She is a almost 15-year-old dog now. She'll be 15 September 6th, so coming up very soon. And she is a little bit set in her ways and a little bit of a old lady. So certainly didn't want to have to wake her up and make her move. She was so happy at the beach, though. She really loved our vacation. And even though she's not a big fan of water, she just had the most contented look on her face the entire time we were there. So very glad that we went ahead and went through with our vacation despite all of the issues with the virus and having to change our plans a bit. I'm still really happy that we went, if nothing else than just for her. So I added some journaling just with a pen, handwritten journaling there on that journaling card. And then I'm going to kind of recreate the layers that I added behind my photo, behind my journaling card, just to tie the two in together and help it kind of feel cohesive across the two pages. There will be that vellum screen in between, so you won't see them really side by side, but I wanted it to feel kind of continuous and feel like they belong together. So I decided to go ahead and add pretty much all of the same papers that I added to the other side. I don't think I add any of that violet paper, but the rest of them all make it behind my journaling. Again, just in kind of wonky layers. I used some scraps that I had left over. I didn't worry about making anything concentric or making sure everything was matted perfectly straight. I just kind of let it be whatever it was. Again, using that double-sided tape from scrapbook.com to adhere everything down. I did also tear the yellow paper so that it had that same texture that was on the other side, and just adding all of these together, getting them so that you can see the different pattern papers in just a little bit, little tiny borders around the edges, and also making sure that none of them line up exactly. So I don't want the edge of my blue paper to line up exactly with the pink paper. I want it all to feel a bit random. a bit like just a stack of papers thrown down on the page. So once I have that the way I want it, I can go ahead and adhere it to the background. And I am going to try and line it up with the photo. I don't get it perfectly lined up. I think I make it a little bit higher, but because there's all of the other stuff around the photo, it feels like it's in the right spot to me. So I went ahead and stuck that down, and then I'm going to work on the little cluster at the bottom of my journaling card. I'm doing the same thing as before, popping up a couple things on some of those foam dot uh, adhesive foam dots, I guess. And then I decided that I had these little white hearts. They were the offcut of the screen. So when I cut the screen out, the kind of negative part was in the shape of the hearts that are on the screen. And I saved them thinking I could probably use those on some project. And I decided to try inking them. So I grabbed a few inks. This one that I'm currently using is Ocean Breeze from Pinkfish Studio. I also have uh, mustard seed, distress oxide, and then a couple pinks from Pinkfish Studio. I try bubblegum, but that was a little bit too bright, and I end up going with Raspberry Bliss from Pinkfish Studio. So I will have all that linked down below along with the kits, or at least what's available of the kits, just so that you know. And you can find it if you are interested in doing so. And I'm using a foam applicator from scrapbook.com just to ink up these little pieces. So this is textured cardstock, which means they're not going to ink perfectly. There's going to be a bit of a texture there, and that doesn't bother me at all. It would have certainly probably looked a bit better if it was smooth cardstock, but that's totally okay. It actually works really well. I'm pretty happy with how they end up turning out. So I'm trying the Raspberry Bliss there, and I think I was mostly trying to decide which one I wanted to use for my title. So that love title that is also cut from that white textured cardstock is going to get inked. I end up, like I said, going with Raspberry Bliss. The bubblegum was just a bit too bright. The Raspberry Bliss was a bit more, it matched my photo and the papers a bit better, so that's the one I'm going to go with. And I'm not doing a heavy application. I want it to kind of look inked. I don't want it to look like solid cardstock. I want it to have some darker spots and lighter spots. So I'm not blending super well, just kind of adding ink as I can. I'm using a tweezers to hold it down because I was getting ink all over my hands, and that was bothering me. So I just used tweezers to hold them down instead. And now that I have that title inked up and I have a couple hearts that I've added to my project, I'm going to go ahead and adhere the different layers of this title together so I can add it to my screen. So I have cut it 3 times from white cardstock, and I'm just going to layer those 3 together to create a bit of a thicker title. So it's going to look a bit more like chipboard when I add the 3 together. And I'm just using some liquid adhesive to do that. This is Scotch Quick Dry glue in a fine liner bottle. It's my favorite way of adding liquid adhesive, so that's what I'm using here. And I just add a little bit of the glue, and then I pick it up and use my fingers to align the layers together to make sure that they're perfectly aligned and stack up perfectly with each other. And then I'll add that final layer, and then I can go ahead and add that title to my vellum screen exactly where I had it sitting there. To finish out my title, I want to add some of those foam alphas from the Life Crafted kit. So they are a teal foam alpha. They're super, super thin. They're absolutely gorgeous, but they are a bit delicate. So you have to be a bit careful when you use them. I decide to grab my Thickers alignment tool just to get the words you so the title is going to be Love You So, just to get that aligned and see kind of where I want it on this screen. And then I'll use my tweezers to actually place them because they are definitely too delicate to try and stick down with my fingers. I was a little bit worried I was going to tear one of them, but they held up really well, and they're super sticky, so there's no concern about them coming off once they're stuck down. Yeah, so I just used my tweezers to get them in the right place once I have the spacing right. And then I think that's going to be just about it for this page. I do use liquid glue to stick down this title, and then just use the adhesive on these thick or on these foam alphas to glue them down. And then I'm going to come back in and add just a few finishing touches. So once I have the title in place, I decide that it looks a little bit bare, and I come back in with another one of those starfish and a little puffy heart that I add just to the right side of the title. And that's going to finish that off. And then I come back in with the puffy stickers that were in the scrapbooking add-on kit. They are from Sweet Story, I think, and there were some little tiny black stars, and I really liked the idea of adding that black contrast to my pages, so I just sprinkle those around the embellishment clusters that I already have in place, and that helps tie in the black that's in my photo and just adds a bit of contrast. And then that's going to be it. So while you're watching me finish up all of those bits, I just wanted to let you know that there are some close-up photos coming up at the end of this video so that you can see all of the details of this page and you can read the journaling that I wrote if you so choose. I will be sure to link everything that I can down below. I know that the kits are sold out, but a lot of the elements that I've used and that are in the Life Crafted kit, you can get digitally. So I'll be sure to link all of those down below as well. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope that you have found some inspiration in this page and that you will be inspired to create a page of your own like this. Thanks again for watching, and I hope to see you back here soon.